How was it for you when you put that first story out there?
I think honestly speaking, when I look at my career with the ninth semester, I wouldn't say I felt imposter syndrome. I knew that I wanted to do this and I was going to do it and no one was going to stop me and I was going to do it my own way. Platforms I recommend include WayUp, Handshake,
Okay.
Jobwell. There's this website called intern-list.com.
Are you a student trying to land a job by graduation or an internship for the summer and not sure where to start? Well, I want you to start here because today we have Jade Walters from the ninth semester on the New College Perspective. This is another amazing early career advice conversation from the best in the business. Guys, you have no idea how big this is. She has a following of over 100,000 across all platforms and has been featured on the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, NPR, and collaborated with Handshake, WayUp, and her campus media. Most importantly, though, she is a first-generation college student and has a heart for people, and then also is a big fan of Sims, the video game. New to my channel, hi, I'm Jerica, and I love helping first and second-generation students succeed in college. So click subscribe, grab your coffee or your tea, and I'll see you on the other side. Jade, welcome to the New College Perspective. I had to drop how much you love Sims. How are you feeling today? How are things going with you?
Yes, hi. Thanks for having me. I'm feeling great. I'm definitely looking forward to playing Sims next month when they drop a new expansion pack. So,
Man, how many years have you been playing Sims? I feel like this is like a
yeah.
blast from the past.
I've been playing specifically Sims 4 since I was in high school. So it was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, I'm just really excited to have you on and us to have this conversation. Can you take us back to when, where, why you decided to start going on social media and sharing early career advice?
Yeah, so two of the reasons why I started the ninth semester is because I was on my own early career journey. I had made
Hmm.
a pivot from deciding to work in maternal child health on the public health side of
Hmm.
things to wanting to work on the non-technical side of the tech
Hmm.
industry. And as I was making that career pivot, I'm applying for full-time jobs, I'm preparing for graduation, and I
Hmm.
realized that it was kind of hard to find some of the roles that I was looking for. But then I was also constantly being met with rejections. And as I was
Mm.
navigating that entry level job hunt, I realized that there's a lot of information that is just not shared about how to actually find a job post grad. You spend
Yeah.
all of these years preparing to graduate and studying,
Hmm.
but not about resume writing or tailoring your
Hmm.
application to the role that you're applying for, all these little nuanced, unspoken
Hmm.
rules about how to navigate it. People weren't talking about it. And
Hmm.
around that time, TikTok was becoming popular in the States, and there were people who were sharing career advice, but a lot of it was centered to those who are already well in their career, a few years
Yeah.
into their career, but there weren't anyone that was focused on or entry level folks.
Hmm.
So one of
Hmm.
the reasons why I started that was because I went through my own struggles and I didn't want other students to have to face through those struggles too. So I created that platform that I essentially wished that I had when I was navigating my job hunt. And on the other side, I had got really into early career recruiting and I was trying to break into that side of the industry and
Yeah.
I wasn't getting any responses back. I kept,
Hmm.
I didn't have enough experience, but you need experience to get experience.
Exactly.
So
It's like that catch 22. You're like, okay, so what am I
mhm.
supposed to do?
Yeah, so I created the blog because one way I saw it was no one will give me a seat at the table, so I'll create my own
Hmm.
table.
Hmm.
But then
Hmm.
also I can have this platform to essentially educate myself. I didn't just a lot of the content that I've shared, it's come from personal lived experiences, but then it's also
Yes.
coming from, me taking time over the years to really educate myself about recruiting in this industry. What is the difference
Mhm.
between recruiting early talent versus recruiting mid to senior level talent? There's a difference in just learning
Mhm.
about how to navigate that, what a recruiter is looking for. I can package up that information for my audience and kind of be like that insider person where it's okay, this is what they're actually looking for. This is
Mhm.
what no one is
Mhm.
telling you to do.
Yeah, and I feel like when you were talking a little bit, alluding to imposter syndrome a little bit of not feeling like the people were not accepting you, into these spaces. And so you had to create your space. How did you feel that first time that you put that blog out there, like the first entry that you made public? Because I feel like it's such a big moment to just put yourself out there.
Mhm. I think honestly speaking, when I look at my career with the ninth semester, I wouldn't say I felt imposter syndrome. I knew that I wanted to do this and I was going to do it and no one was going to stop me and I was going to do it my own way. The ninth semester, I truly saw this as my way. This was my thing. No one can take it away from me. This was my passion project. Every day, I'm amazed at how much it has grown, but just going in knowing that this is mine and this is my playbook. Like it was worth taking that bet on myself. And that could be scary as a 21-year-old graduating and you're deciding, I'm just gonna do what I can. And for me, I've been in a unique position where I've been content creating since I was 14. So I'm 25 now and I've
Wow.
been putting out content on the internet for
Man.
years. So the
Yes.
ninth semester was different because this is my first time doing video content. Like a lot of times
Mhm.
I did written content. So I was nervous because I had to be in front of the camera and just like speak. Like there was even a point where I considered just like having a faceless account. But
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
thought it was important for me to share my story as a Black
Mm.
woman, as a first gen
Yes.
woman, as a
Yes.
HBCU grad. Like I wanted to put a face to
Yes.
my name. And I think that's really helped a
Mm.
lot because I think it's different for the content to be coming from me versus a
Yes.
white man. I think that is a confidence that you need as someone entering the workforce. Like you need a passion
Yes.
project that excites you so much that
Mm.
it opens so many more doors for you. Like the ninth
Yes.
semester has opened more professional doors for me than anything else I've
Mhm.
done in my career.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it makes me proud that this is something that I made and came from my
Yes.
brain and people like it. Like so
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. I
beautiful
mean,
thing.
I guess my question is like that decision to go this path versus maternal health, like this was something that you were passionate about, but did you have hesitation in making that decision? Because I think a lot of our students feel that like, oh, well, we want to do something in our passion, but maybe we have like other people saying, take the safe route in a way, So
Mhm.
talk about that.
Yeah, so for me, I've always loved maternal health. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
I love pregnancy and motherhood. Like I aspire to be
Mm-hmm.
a mother and
Mm-hmm.
I also understood too that I'm young in my career. So if I
Mm-hmm.
want to decide to pivot, I can always come back to my degree. Like I can always pivot my way
Hmm.
back. Like I'm reminding myself that if like I always just tell myself, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to maternal health. And I
Yeah.
haven't gone back yet. I do have some
Hmm.
aspirations to go back, but
Okay.
just understanding that it's still there, but then also understanding the value of my degree. Like I've met so many people where their degree is one thing, but their career path has been a completely different thing. And I
Yes.
remember just
Yes.
growing up, like I would be in internship programs and professional development programs.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when we would have speakers that they'll always be like, I never expected ending up in this
Yes.
industry. And that was something I used to
Yes.
always
Yes.
hear. And I didn't understand because I'm like, how could you go to school for one thing and then you
Yes.
fall
Yeah.
into
How could you
something
spend all that
else?
money for that? Yeah. How could you spend all that money on that and turn around and do something different?
Exactly, and then when I did it, I was like, "Oh, I definitely understand. Because
Hmm.
sometimes as you're getting older, you're gonna have different passions, and my passion still is in
Yeah.
maternal health, but the passion that excites me, the passion where I can truly be myself
Mm-hmm.
in every way is this, and so that was a decision I had to make, and also it was a lot of life changes, like, it was my first pandemic, I was graduating, and then also too, I
Mm-hmm.
had lost my dad at that time, and it really
Oh
changed
no,
my
I'm so
perspective
sorry.
on
Yeah.
life. I was just like, life
Hmm.
is too short.
Hmm.
Just do what you
Mm-hmm.
can and just go out
Yes.
there and be what you want. And thankfully, like, cause I did have I have first generation, my parents are from Barbados.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
as
Uh-huh.
I'm
That's
making
that's what I'm
these,
trying to get at. Like, yeah, like, okay,
yeah,
you got you got these
I'm
other
making
voices
these
in your ear.
exactly. I'm making these career changes and for them it
Mhm.
can be confusing because I actually went to Howard to major in nursing and then I changed into health education and there was
Mhm.
always that
Mhm.
confusion because they're like, "Oh, what about the loans or what about a steady career
Uh-huh.
path?"
Mhm. Mhm.
But it was that point my senior year I decided like I just have to bet on myself. Like I just have to try
Yes.
and I know
Yes.
myself. Like I'm not going to just not do it the best way I can. Like I always give 110%. So
Mhm.
just being very self-aware to my capabilities and just that reminder like there was a point where I couldn't let those external voices
Yes.
dictate my life.
And did you find like when you were making that bet on yourself, did you have people around you that were maybe friends that were cheering you on, or was it more internal? Because I think
Mhm.
like if students are like, okay, yeah, I want to bet on myself, maybe you need to have a team, a group of friends or something that all are just cheering you on? Or was it more just internal because of all these things that were happening in your life that were saying, you know, you only have one life and you got
Mhm.
to make the most out of it?
I think it was a mixture of both. And then
Okay.
even when I'm thinking about like making that career change, like when I think back, I don't even think I told my mom.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was
Mm-hmm.
doing everything I could. Like, I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
take the certified health educator exam. I
Mm-hmm.
completely skipped that because I decided I'm not going to do it. And at that point, like,
Woo!
I had already invested
Huh?
money for the test. I
Mm-hmm.
had a really great letter of recommendation from a dean at my college who was
Man.
involved in just like the
Uh-huh.
organization. So it was risky. And I didn't
Yes.
tell anyone, but like, I was still just like, let me just put myself out there, but then also
Mm.
just external too. Like, I think what I love the most about TikTok is that I got glimpses of other people who were doing it. Like, they may not have been doing exactly
Mm.
what I was looking for, but they were
Mm-hmm.
doing what they wanted. And getting a peek
Mm-hmm.
into that showed me that is very possible. And then I also feel like the fact that I went to Howard, that really
Yes.
influenced me because I was constantly surrounded by people who were doing amazing things. They were the first of whatever industry or whatever it is they were doing. And
Yes.
it's like you're constantly surrounded by greatness. So you have no choice but to be
Yes.
great. And so my environment really played a strong factor in that.
Yeah, no choice but to be great. And I feel like our listeners, that's how they're going to feel hearing about this part of your journey because it's inspiring me. It's like, man, what risk? What more, you know, risk could I have taken back then? So now I kind of want to talk about LinkedIn because you're just pouring out so much amazing content day after day. I find that a lot of college students aren't on LinkedIn. Can you talk to us a little bit about why students should be on the platform, should be on LinkedIn, especially Gen Z students that are trying to land jobs and internships?
I think LinkedIn is really just like that number one place where you can network with anyone. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have people that I don't know how I would have met if it wasn't through LinkedIn,
Mm.
especially in a
Mm-hmm.
digital landscape where everyone is trying to find some sort of connection with someone.
Mm-hmm.
You can connect with someone in a completely different state than you. And it just because
Mm.
it could be because you
Yes.
met on LinkedIn. And I think that's like
Mm-hmm.
the biggest benefit is that everyone is pretty welcoming. Like, it's kind of like how I heard Facebook was back in the
Yes.
day. Everyone will just accept
Yes.
friend
It's
requests.
so true.
LinkedIn is
Yeah.
kind of like that too. Like, especially if
So
it's someone
true.
who they're in your industry or they go to the same company, they work at the same
Mm-hmm.
company as you, or just someone with an interesting profile. Like, you can send them a connection request and they would most
Yes.
likely accept it. Like, there are a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people who I see a quick glimpse of who they are, and it's usually just through like their headline because that's usually the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you see. And I'm like, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I actually want to follow along on your journey. I actually want to like see, even if it's someone I've never
Mm.
met, never spoke to,
Mm-hmm.
and because I'm constantly educating myself about different industries, different
Mm.
people. So I like to just follow along. And I think that's the best thing with like LinkedIn is like you can find those people that you're interested in. Like, you can find someone who's working that dream role that you're
Mm-hmm.
aspiring to work at and
Mm-hmm.
read up on their journey, see of how they did it. And with LinkedIn too, now that there's been that rise of creators, there's people who they have a lot of knowledge and tips to share.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot from just being on LinkedIn and reading my feed. Like, as much as I post, I also
Mm-hmm.
read a lot. And I value
Mm.
that because there aren't other platforms that are very like professional focused. And I know some people
Yeah.
clown
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn because of just like how the posts are shaped. But
Uh-huh.
I think
Uh-huh.
that's just the uniqueness because I too used to clown it. I used to thought it was corny, but now I'm in it. Now I'm those same people
Mm-hmm.
that they're clowning, but there are people just giving free game all the
Mm.
time. And
Mm.
then also when it comes to finding the jobs, like if you curate your timeline, those
Okay.
jobs will start coming on your timeline. Like, I share a lot of early career opportunities and
Yeah.
I see a lot of what I want to see in terms of the people I want to see, as well as
Mm-hmm.
just programs. Like, I can scroll on my timeline
Mm-hmm.
today and I could
Mm-hmm.
find 20
Mm-hmm.
programs
Mm-hmm.
within like
Mm-hmm.
10
Mm-hmm.
minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And LinkedIn is another great way to just document your professional journey. Like, when I think
Mm.
about how a few years from now, I can look back at my page and I can see my journey as a
Yeah.
professional grow. Like, I
Yeah.
love that. Like, I love that I can see how far I've come and
Mm-hmm.
how like there are things that I said that I wanted to do that I accomplished. And I have that
Yes.
evidence on my diary, my professional diary.
Yes.
So I think
Yeah.
it's definitely worth it. And I think just even if you create your account and you spend like a couple months just seeing it. Like, you don't have to post, you don't have to have
Yeah.
1,000 connections. Just scroll and curate your timeline. Similar with like your TikTok For You page where you create the
Yeah.
perfect timeline. Treat your
Mhm.
LinkedIn that way too. So that's my biggest advice. Like,
Hmm.
just dabble in and find your circles. Like, there's a lot of community on LinkedIn, and I think that's why the 9th semester has really been able to grow, is because I'm in
Mhm.
community with both my audience, but then they're also in community with themselves. Like, I
Yeah.
see them in the comments connecting, or like, oh, let me send you this, or let me connect
Hmm.
you that, and that makes me happy because
Yeah.
college students and or just within the last few years, they feel lonely
Mhm.
because they started school
Yes.
during the pandemic. So they
Yes.
were online,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
seeking
Yes.
connections.
Mhm.
LinkedIn is that place where you can start to get some of those connections, and you might
Mhm.
find someone on LinkedIn that goes to your campus, and now you're able to meet in person, and now you're friends. So it's worth it.
Yeah. I think like the welcoming part of it, there is, I feel like a lot of people of color from colleges are not on LinkedIn. And there's this concept of like, I don't know, needing to feel prepared, I guess. Like this is very professional and therefore I don't feel professional. It's a little bit about it. I guess some inner work that has to happen before just jumping on the platform. But I like what you're saying about it being very welcoming. Can you talk a little bit about like how to curate your timeline, your profile?
And then before I get to that, to answer the question, I mean, not to answer, but what you just said about how you feel like it has to be professional, I will say
Yes.
that LinkedIn has changed over time. Like, I see people literally
Okay.
posting their wedding photos, their babies,
Oh,
nights
okay.
out. Like, there's still that professionalism. Like, for me
Hmm.
personally, I wouldn't share those personal details. And that's just
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yeah.
I think for me too,
Yeah.
like, I've been on the social media for years. Like, if I want to talk about those personal things, I'll go on Instagram or I'll go on my
Hmm.
TikTok. Like,
Hmm.
and there's nothing wrong with those people who share their
Hmm.
personal details, but it's
Hmm.
just you need to find your balance. Like, you need to set your boundaries. Like, I think everything that my audience knows about me is what I
Yeah.
want to share. And I'm very
Yes.
open, but I think it's okay to not like you don't have to feel like you have to be buttoned up or have to have like the perfect response because
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I don't know. Sometimes people kind of don't care too much. Like they just
Yeah.
care about insights. They care about community and they care about hearing unique stories or just even if it's like you don't if you feel like your story isn't like super
Hmm.
spectacular, your story is worth sharing.
Yeah, and I think that is true. And I run into a lot of students that are just like, okay, I'm not the best writer. So what do I share on LinkedIn? Or I am first or second gen. And so I when I'm on this platform and this is like a job platform, I have to make sure I'm presenting my best self. And I don't want to make any mistakes because this is like my one shot type of thing. These are some of the things that like I hear. I don't know if you're hearing that too.
Mhm.
Um, from the people of color space, like in college students, first and second gen. So I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on that, overcoming that? People are like, I'm not a great writer. Maybe it's
Mhm.
AI. I don't know. Like,
Mhm. I do hear that question a lot about like what do I
mhm.
even post? And I always
Yeah.
tells them to start with just starting with with your story. Like
Okay.
it, whether that is you talking about like sharing your insights from a class that you took that was really interesting or a
Okay.
project that you just completed that you're very really proud of or
Okay.
like say you have a resume that got you to your dream internship, breaking it
Hmm.
down. Like those are pieces of content that do really, really well, where it's like breaking
Okay.
down the resume that got me this role or breaking down how I got this internship. I think the
Hmm.
more that you're scrolling and navigating just like your timeline, you're gonna see the type
Hmm.
of content that does well or just like the stories that people are sharing. But I think just not being so focused on likes and engagement, just talking about your story. I
Hmm.
am not the biggest fan of using AI for writing content. I think
Oh,
it
okay.
should be
Tell me more. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I don't use AI in any of the content that I create. Everything is
Wow.
from the brain. And I think because
Hmm.
at a certain point, you can kind of tell when something is written by
Hmm.
AI and it just
Hmm. Hmm.
sounds robotic,
Yeah.
which
Doesn't
isn't
sound genuine.
like you just
Real.
want to
Hmm.
be your genuine self and tell your genuine story
Hmm.
about who you are and eventually as you're creating content or just sharing your story, some people will
Hmm.
have questions and they may ask you certain things and now you can create
Hmm.
more posts from that.
Hmm. Yeah, and I know one of the questions we were was talking about, like how to curate your own LinkedIn timeline. I know I did a video about like the people to follow because I do find that as a barrier. But like you have a great timeline, and to your point of like now that because your timeline is so amazing, you're learning. That's the part I like
Mhm.
about LinkedIn. It's like, oh man, like, oh wow. And you get to learn from people, not just in your country, but other countries. I don't feel like I get
Mhm.
that from these other platforms, but I'm like, wait, you live in like Australia or you live like in Kenya and this is your perspective on this. Like, wow, that's really cool. Let me connect with you. And there people, like you said, are very friendly. How can a college student, first or second gen college student, start curating their LinkedIn feed so that they are getting that education that's going to link them to opportunities?
Yeah, so definitely starts with just connecting with folks, whether it's from those from your school, past internships,
Okay.
past roles,
School.
because
Okay.
as you connect with more of those folks, you're going to start to see in your timeline things that they're liking, things that they're resharing, especially if they're in your industry. That
Okay.
will help bring you closer to even more people that you can follow and connect with.
Okay.
I think also, like, if there's industries that you're interested in, like, you could find their recruiters. Like, it's really easy. Like, if you just type in the company name,
Okay.
your city, and then word recruiter, you'll start to see profiles that match that. And just follow
Okay.
them because sometimes some of them are creators, so they'll share their insights about
Mhm.
recruiting or just the industry, as well as if they're hiring for roles, like you'll see that
Mhm.
first on your timeline. And
Mhm.
then there's also, like, different groups on LinkedIn for different industries or just, like,
Mm.
like, I know there's, like, groups for marketing, groups for tech, like,
Okay.
follow those, and then from there, you're gonna find more of those like-minded individuals, and then over
Yes.
time, like, your timeline is gonna start to learn who you are and what you like to see. Similar with the For
Mhm.
You page on TikTok, like, it's gonna start
Yes.
showing you some of
Mhm.
those posts that they think that you would be interested in, and that was something that helped me a lot. Like, I do follow a lot of folks in the recruiting space, but then I also
Mhm.
follow students, or I follow people who just seem to
Mm.
have interesting stories, or I'm really into, just like content creation, just social media marketing. So I follow a lot of gurus in that space and
Yes.
I learn from them. So now my timeline is like a mixture of the things that I want to learn from, things that I can share with others, and then just
Mhm.
keeping updated with people in my network and learning what they're doing. Like, I have a lot of people that I'm connected with that I have not spoken with, and then there's people
Yeah.
I'm connected with that I met years ago. So it's like a nice mixture.
So connecting, however, if it's a connection request or if it's a follow, whatever it is, just make sure you're interacting with that person so that your feed, the algorithm starts understanding what your For You page becomes
Mhm.
better optimized. And the last LinkedIn question actually I have is when students are setting up their LinkedIn profiles and things, what part of their profile do they need to pay special attention to? So we already talked about like the feed, but are there things on the profile that you find first and second gen students or just students in general, college students miss when you're going around and talking to different groups?
Yeah, I will say like the top 3 things would be having a profile picture that looks
Okay.
professional, a headline that gives like a quick snapshot of who you are, and then your
Okay.
bio where you can go in depth about who you are, what you're looking for, what's your story. Just so like if anyone hops onto your page, it can quickly like glance over those things and get like a good synopsis of who you are.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And if people are struggling with writing the bio, what tips would you have for that? Like,
Yeah, I would recommend you can even check out other people's bios and
okay.
see how they do it because sometimes some people are just very professional that will keep it like in third person, or sometimes they
Okay.
can get creative. Like, I feel like your bio is a place where it's really up to you with the direction that you want to go in. Like, you can be as
hmm
creative as possible or you can keep it professional. But I think just definitely making sure that you mention your interests, your
hmm
background, things like that. So you have flexibility there.
Yeah, and what I like, Jay, like talking to you, it's like no pressure. It's a space to be yourself. And I think sometimes you hear often like, okay, these are the rules. And we hear rules, rules, rules. So you're just like, okay, I must be like like similar to like all these people. But you're like, no, embrace it, learn it. You're gonna grow and share and follow. And now I want to start talking a little bit about jobs because people are about to need jobs, right? Because graduation is coming up. So, can you share a little bit with our listeners the 3 game-changing pieces of advice you have for students looking for jobs by graduation right now? Like, what should students be doing right now? They're their senior year in college and they're like, man, I really want to have a job by graduation. Jade, what should I do?
Mhm. My first tip is to look into professional development or rotational programs because these
Okay.
programs are specifically made for new college graduates, and I like to describe them as like a full-time internship. They're
Okay.
usually a year long. I've seen some that are 3 years long, and
Okay.
within that program, you're able to rotate within your desired industry. So say you wanna work in
Okay.
retail, but in retail industry, it's not just like the in-store shopping.
Mm-hmm.
There's the engineering, there's
Mm-hmm.
marketing, there's like so many different departments within a retail organization, and
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm.
rotate and decide which department you want to work in, which is helpful
Mm-hmm.
considering if
Yeah.
you know that you kind of want to work in an industry, but you don't know exactly what you want to do. It's really an
Mm-hmm.
exploratory way for you to decide. And from there, you're usually paired with a mentor throughout your time in a rotational program. So this is someone who's been at
Yeah.
the company for a few years, or sometimes someone who has done the same program before and now
Yeah.
they're a mentor. And this is like your point person for any questions that you may have, or just like that candidness that you may not feel like you can have with your manager.
Yeah.
So programs like that are a great way to help you kind of ease into corporate America, especially if
Okay.
you haven't had an internship before. Or
Yes.
even if you've had an internship before, like working full time in corporate is a bit different than being an intern. Like as an intern, you get a taste of
Yeah.
it, but when you're
Mm-hmm.
there full time, you really get to see. And then my second piece of advice when it comes to like navigating the job plan, a lot of entry level roles that you may see right now are looking to hire someone within the next few weeks, not in the next few months. So something that I've heard
Oh.
from students, and this is something I experienced too, you're applying for
Mm-hmm.
these roles, you see that it's entry level and you think that you can get it, but they're not saying that they're looking for someone who has already graduated. Because unless it's like a program where in the title it says for new college grads or recent
Mm-hmm.
grads, they cannot wait for you to wait to graduate a few months. Like they want someone that can
Interesting.
start within the next few weeks. So that's where it's like
Okay.
students may
Okay.
that they're applying now for these regular entry level roles, they're getting denied and they don't tell them because like some companies is like it's like a legal thing why they can't tell them. But
Okay.
it's something that I had experienced because I'm applying for jobs, and sometimes you get an interview and you tell them, "Oh, I won't be able to start until
Yes.
4 months from
Mm-hmm.
now,"
Mm-hmm.
but they need
Mm-hmm.
someone that could have started yesterday. So that's why I always lean into looking into professional development programs or rotational programs because those usually have
Okay.
a later start date. Like it could be a cohort start date of May or July or August or even later than
Okay.
September, and they know that you're a student versus entry level roles where it's like they're just trying to get someone to start. And then my third piece of advice is have an open mind. Like, I
Okay.
think sometimes, and I used to be guilty of this too, you can be so caught up on just applying for the big household name
Mm-hmm.
companies.
Mm-hmm.
And because you're doing that, you're kind of like narrowing yourself because you also got to keep in mind, like, everyone else is applying for it. Like, everyone else is
Yes.
applying for Google, everyone else is applying for Apple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be very, very competitive. Like, for some of their
Mm-hmm.
programs, they get literally thousands of applications within the hour. But there are smaller, mid-sized level organizations that have very robust, like, support for their entry level talent. Like, they're very
Okay. Okay.
dedicated. But then there's also organizations like the larger ones that are very passionate about nurturing their
Mm-hmm.
early talent. Like, not every
Mm-hmm.
company really cares. Like, for some companies, they'll go above and beyond, provide you with a mentor, and provide you with workshops that you have
Yeah.
systems in place to help you grow. But if for some, you're just a number. And for
Yeah.
me, I've
Yeah.
worked on both sides where it's like my first role post grad, I was at a large organization.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
role that I had was known to be entry level, but
Hmm.
I got a lot more support in my career in the second role that I did post grad because it was a smaller organization. My manager
Mm.
was very dedicated for my growth and I felt seen. Like sometimes at a large organization
Yeah.
like that, you can feel like a small fish in a big sea
Yes,
and it can be
exactly. That's
really
what I hear a
hard.
lot.
So
Mm-hmm.
definitely keep an open mind and don't just only stick to applying for the Apples and the Googles of the world.
Yeah, and that is true. I guess my question is, okay, so if applying for jobs, students applying for jobs now don't land them, people are not really looking for them right now to start in May. Should they wait until April to apply for jobs? Like when is it a month out of your graduation date that makes more sense to start applying or like or maybe
I know.
maybe it
Mhm.
doesn't.
I think just starting your application hunt in like March, because just like
Okay.
thinking of timing, especially like some companies, they take so
Mm-hmm.
long to reply, or even just like the whole interview
Mm-hmm.
process. Sometimes the interview
Mm-hmm.
process can drag out 1 to 2 months,
That's
and
true.
timing
Mm-hmm.
could work.
Mm-hmm.
But I know for me, I had started December of my senior year, and it was a
Oh,
bit
wow.
iffy. Like if
Okay.
I could do it again, I
Uh-huh.
would have definitely applied for rotational programs. Like that is one thing I would do just to help ease me into corporate America. But
Yeah.
I didn't get through into a decent interview process until July. So 2 months after graduation.
Okay.
So there are some times where it can take a few months for you to actually be able to hear back from a company or get a decent interview. Cause like I did a couple interviews here and there, but based on just the conversations, it was something where I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a step back. Like I don't think that this is the
Yeah.
right role for me.
Now, on the flip side of jobs is internships, right? And I find like some students don't understand why it's important to get an internship. And there's like all this data that's showing that, hey, if you get an internship, you can make between $15,000 to $20,000 more by the time you graduate. Where do you think students should go to find internships that maybe is not like the standard, just look on the feed or go on Indeed.com or something like that? Like, what are some other places that you say would be helpful for students that are looking for internships right now?
Yeah. So there are job boards that are specifically focused on early talent, which is
Okay.
great because when you use other job boards like Indeed or
Mhm.
Monster or even LinkedIn jobs, you're going to just see all types of roles from different
Mm.
levels. But platforms I recommend include WayUp, Handshake,
Okay.
Jobwell. There's
Okay.
this website called intern-list.com, and is a
Okay.
job depository that is updated hourly with roles, and it's categorized by
Mhm.
different industries. But those platforms are great because it already kind of eliminates the work of you trying to like shift through all of the
Mhm.
mid-level roles or the senior level
Mhm.
roles, and you're going to
Mhm.
see strictly internships, campus ambassador roles, volunteer work, as well as those
Mhm.
entry level jobs. So those platforms, I think that they're very helpful. And I know a lot of students are familiar with Handshake because most campuses, they
Yeah.
partner with Handshake. So they already have a Handshake account. But I always recommend other people to check out different platforms because sometimes you see things on one platform that you didn't see on another. And
Yes.
it can be
Yes.
very helpful in terms of just like diversifying your list.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, I also see things on LinkedIn too. So it's like sometimes it comes there first before it comes, to these other platforms. So I think
Mhm.
that's good, like checking out the job boards that are specific for students. And so once a student lands an internship and they're in the internship, how can they turn that internship into a job? Like, I'm sure you get that question a lot, Jade. Like, okay, what do I do once I'm in this internship? I need a job. What advice or things that you think students should be doing in the internship for that to actually happen?
So I would say there's different ways to go about it. So because internships are usually 10 to
Yes.
12 weeks long.
Mhm, mhm.
And if you can, I would say give it some time to even make sure that this is a company that you like, because sometimes it could be
Ooh,
an internship that
yeah.
you're doing and
Mm,
you're
mhm,
impressed by the job description. You're impressed by being like the things that
mhm.
you're told is going to happen, but the grass may not be greener on the other side.
Yes.
So
Uh-huh.
give
Exactly.
yourself some time to really check out the environment and see the things that they're doing.
Yes.
For
Mhm,
some companies,
mhm.
sometimes they may not have entry level roles that they're hiring for. And I think a lot of
Mm.
those stories that we hear about people who turned their internship into a full-time
Mhm.
job, those organizations already had systems in place. Like that internship program is a pipeline for their entry level roles. But some
Okay.
companies, their internship program is just that. So
Mhm,
keep an eye on just the environment to even make sure that this is something that you would want to stay at full time. But then also keep an eye on their career pages and see
mhm,
if they're even hiring for an entry level role.
mhm,
Because then once you have the information, like say you decided that you want to work at this company, you found a role or just like a team that you're interested in, or you even see that your
mhm,
team is also hiring for someone entry level,
mhm.
that is when you can start having that conversation with your manager, because your manager is going to really be the one that helps move a lot of needles when it comes to you getting a full-time offer. So you can have
Okay.
that conversation and let them know that you're interested in staying long term, interested in joining full
Okay.
time. What are
Mhm.
the steps that you need to take to get there? And then together with
Okay.
your manager, you can create that game plan.
Mhm.
But I think when it comes to an internship too, it's important to a part of you to be okay with the fact that it might not turn into a full-time role. Like, I think if you're going to
Mhm.
internship and you're like, I'm going to turn this into a full-time role, and you have all
Mhm.
these expectations and it doesn't
Mhm.
work
Mhm.
out, you may just be disappointed. Like, I had an
Yeah.
internship after I graduated college, but I still was applying for full-time jobs because you never know. Like,
Yes.
you could think that there may be an opportunity to turn it into a full-time role, but they don't have it.
Mhm.
But I think having that conversation with your manager is the first key to getting any sort of clarity. Like, I think now that you're finally at the company, you have people that you can ask these questions to versus you're not at the company, you're doing all this research, everything is confusing.
Mhm.
Like, you have
Mhm.
someone that you can like straight up ask, is it possible for me to return as a full-time employee? But I still recommend to still apply for outside jobs because you never know what can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, they could be like one moment they're hiring and then the next moment they're like, we got to let everybody go, which I've seen that
Mhm.
happen too. So, yeah, I think like, okay, having the conversation, but then also be out there still applying is how you can create a job from an internship. And the other thing I want to talk a little bit about is your baby, right? The ninth semester,
Mhm.
your online platform where you're sharing opportunities and advice with students. And it's really thriving. And is there like a post that it's on the platform that you're really proud of, or yeah, like something that you're like, okay, this post is really helpful and I think our like the audience at the New College Perspective should be paying attention to this particular post?
I would say it's my post of 15 platforms of where you can find paid early career opportunities. That was something
Okay.
that I had posted at the top of the year, and it's honestly
Mhm.
something that I post at least once a month because it is a number one question for me about where to find these
Right.
roles. So that was a post that I did on LinkedIn that was very helpful. And then
Mhm.
my next one would have to be my interview prep doc, where I shared a screenshot of how I prepared for my interviews
Oh.
with Ulta Beauty when I was a PR intern there. And that was helpful because I showed my approach to the interview process. Like, everyone talks about the
Yes.
STAR method and all that, which is important.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
for me, what has always helped me shine was the amount of research that I did before then. Like, I
Mm.
prepared for my interviews. Like, I didn't just come
Yes.
in thinking, oh, I'll just answer the questions. Like, I did research
Mhm.
on the role, on the folks who are interviewing me,
Mhm.
questions that I may have,
Mhm.
experiences that I've done that I needed to bring
Mhm.
up, and that's been helpful because I've seen an increase of students telling me, like, "I followed your interview prep doc, I used the
Mhm.
same methods that you did, and I got this internship." And it makes me proud because it's like, these are the unique things that I'm doing that has helped me in my career, and to see it
Yes.
actually help people was great. On a flip side of a piece of personal content for me that I'm proud of is I did a recent reintroduction post where I'm just like
Okay.
reintroducing myself to my audience because my platform has always strictly been early career content. But I
Yeah.
do have a background as a lifestyle blogger. Like, I have a personal blog, and I've been
Mm.
for a while, like, I wanted to incorporate some of my lifestyle content into the ninth semester and really just show more of
Yes.
like my life. And this was advice
Yes.
that I got from my mentor, was to just share more of my story, my
Hmm.
lessons. Like, yes, I can share advice and tips, but like, what are the
Yes.
lessons that I learned? What are some things I'm experiencing? So I've been
Yes.
able to incorporate that into more of my content. And in my reintroduction post, I was sharing that I love talking about early career, but I want my audience to learn more about me as a person. And you can see more of
Hmm.
that personalized stuff on my TikTok. And you're going to see it on my YouTube and on my Instagram, but more so TikTok on YouTube. But this should share, like, I talk a lot about owning your career experiences,
Hmm.
making your own career path. And I want to show them how I'm doing that. Like, I want to show that I'm a living, breathing example of that. And
Yes.
I was proud of that post because I was able to share more of like my creative side because I'm also really into
Yeah.
digital design. So I had like some handwritten elements and stuff, but
Oh, that's so
just
cool.
sharing more of me and the things that excite me. And I don't want to just no longer,
Hmm.
like, I'm not just like this one dimensional early career thing.
Yeah.
Like, I still share the tips, but I'm sharing my life. I'm sharing the things that I'm doing outside of work. Like,
Yes.
I want to show them, like, you can live a life where you're not on one career path, or you're not on one type of,
Yes.
like, you're not one type of person. Like, you have different sides to you. So I'm proud of being able to finally
Yeah.
be like, hey, y'all, like, I'm going to switch up the content, but the content's
There's a
still going
little
to
bit
be
of
the
me.
same.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
that was the
There's a
fun
little bit of
part.
me. Yeah, no, I think that's really cool. And so the other part of like interviews that you talked about, is salary negotiation. So once you have the interview, you go into salary negotiation. Do you have any advice on that for first and second gen students? Because a lot of times I found that we just take it. We're just like, oh my God, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that I'm still working on myself.
Okay.
Like for my first role, I didn't negotiate my salary. I just was very grateful to just have it. And
Yes.
that was
Yes.
something that I kind of wish that I was able to negotiate. But for my second role, just really understanding the value that I bring. And I think as in your first role, it can be a bit scary, but I think it also doesn't hurt to like just ask for a higher number because they usually have a budget for it. Like, especially if like there's a bandwidth, like say it's they're asking for 60 to 70K, like, or they're asking for like the salary is like between 50 to 70K. It's
Yeah.
okay for you to say 65. Like, I think with negotiations, just like going back and
Okay.
forth because they're usually expecting you to negotiate. And if they don't have the budget, then there's other things that you can negotiate. I've seen people negotiate PTO or benefits or things like that. So I think just say a number that feels right for you, but then also considering what are some of the expenses that you're going to have? Like if you're now having to relocate to a new city, see if you can negotiate some sort of relocation assistance or just considering like the things that you're going to have to pay for it and a salary that would help you get there. So just don't be afraid to say a number, even if it sounds high and it's still within the budget. Cause sometimes they're like, oh, okay, absolutely. But
Yeah.
they may negotiate, like say if the bandwidth is between 50 to 70K and you say 68K, they may negotiate to 65 and then you can probably
Yeah.
negotiate to 66. Like it's just a little back and forth, but it starts with determining what are your expenses? What do you need to pay for?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And there's a book, I'm blanking on the name of it, but I'm going to drop it in the show notes about negotiation of salaries and different things that people have said has been helpful for them. Jade, I want to ask you, a lot of students are wanting to do influencing on campus. And you've done that. You mentioned earlier, like you've been in this space since you've been 14 years old, which is like, it's crazy. If students want to be paid to become a campus influencer or something in that space, because not everybody wants a campus job working in the cafeteria, right? What are some tips, places to sign up, or thoughts you have on this space for first and second gen students that might be interested in going the influencer route while on campus?
Yeah, I definitely recommend checking out campus ambassador programs. There's been a rise in just companies all having their own version of it. Great websites where you can find these include Intern Queen, Youth Marketing Connection,
Okay.
Campus Collaborative, Wazerman Next Gen, as well as Evolve as agencies. And they're regularly sharing opportunities. Like a lot of these programs either do hiring at the beginning of the fall semester or beginning of spring semester. And then for the fall, like usually like the summertime. And it's like with really cool brands. Like for me, I was a Bumble campus ambassador as well as a Tinder campus ambassador. I did work through her campus. They have a program called Campus Trend Center, and they always have different unique things. And I think that's like a really great way because it's like you're making money, but then you're also having fun creating content, and you can build that portfolio, and you can use those experiences to help you get internships. Like some of my campus ambassador work has helped me get internships, or some of the experiences that I talked about that I did in that role, I was able to talk about in interviews for full-time jobs. So it can also expose you to an industry that you're interested in. Like the work I was doing in campus marketing is a reason why I got interested in early career recruiting, because I was learning about that realm and just how to just like make that connection with just like Gen Z, but then also incorporating my interest in marketing. So I think it's great. And I feel like even if like you're already an influencer and you're creating content on your own just for fun, like that could be great things that you can incorporate to help you get those roles, because you're usually looking for someone who has some sort of presence online or on campus. So you can get paid for doing the things that you're already doing when you're like creating content on like TikTok or YouTube.
Yeah. Are they paying you like as a 1099, or you're having to put aside your, I don't know, money every year? I know this is in the weeds, but like, some students are like, okay, well, how am I actually getting paid? Is it like, what have you seen in that realm? Or is it like
Yeah.
you're on the books and you get health insurance? I don't know. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think it's like a 1099, or you get paid through like PayPal or something.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really cool.
But
And
no benefits. There's no benefits. So there's like not health insurance, because it's like usually like less than 15 hours a week.
oh, Okay. And as we are starting to land the plane, I would love to do our lightning round of questions with you. Are you down for that? It's just going to be real quick as we head through.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So the first question is, can you give us 2 books that you would recommend to our first and second gen students to read as early career professionals, or 2 podcasts, you know?
The one book I would recommend is called The Defining Decade. And it's
Ooh.
like really for someone who's like they're starting a new chapter in their life, whether they're graduating high school or graduating college. And it just shares different stories from other people who were once in their shoes and the
Mhm.
lessons that they learned. Like that was a book that I had read many years ago that just kind of just like opened my eyes to just like this new decade of my life that I was entering. Like I was
Mhm.
entering like my 20s or entering this
Mhm.
new pivotal like career and growth moment in my life.
And do you have any like podcasts or anything that you think would
I would say the Therapy for Black Girls University podcast. So it's
Okay.
like a
Yeah, I
student
like their stuff.
version of just like the main podcast. And they usually have different people from the college or career space just sharing their insights and stuff.
Okay, perfect. Okay, next question. Since you're a lifestyle influencer, I want to talk about your hair color brand, because your hair color, Jade, is like so nice. Jade and I were talking about this beforehand. I was just like, I need to know the details about your hair color. What is it? Like, tell us what you can tell us.
Yeah. So sadly, I don't know the actual color because I do go to a hair
No.
salon, but I decided to color my hair post grad just because I always remember this one quote where it's like a woman who changes her hair changes her life or something like that. And I had just
Ooh.
moved from New York to Chicago. I was starting a whole new
Mm-hmm.
life. I was like, I've been wanting to color my hair for years. And
Mm-hmm.
so I did
Mm-hmm.
that post grad. And I've had the same color ever since. And I love it because I feel like it's like another like sign of just like growing up and maturing. Like
Yes.
it's different. Like I look at old pictures of myself where my hair was like naturally black and I'm
Uh-huh.
like, I look like a different person. I was a different
Mm-hmm.
person. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just like a great way for me to just have fun and experiment with my hair.
Yes, and we love it. We love it. That's what I was just like, I have to ask. I have to ask.
Thank you.
Uh, okay, so you go to many career conferences like BaddieCon, the National Sales Network Student Sales and Marketing Conference. Yes, I said that. And NACE. Where are you hoping to go to next? What do you like about those conferences? How can students go for free? There are a lot of questions there. Tell us what you would love to share about any of those things.
Yeah, so I'm really, really hoping to go to Afrotech this year. It has been on
Yes.
my
Okay.
agenda for many years, and I kept missing it
Yes.
every year, but I'm very committed to
Not
going
this
this
year. You're
year.
going. You're going. You're going.
Specifically as a speaker, because I recently learned they have, like, a section called
Ooh.
Afrotech U, where it's specifically for their student recent grad section, and I would love to
Okay.
be able to host a workshop there, so
Mhm.
Afrotech is definitely on my list, and as
What
well
would
as
you
a
wanna do a workshop on so we can
I'm
put that
still
out there?
I'm
Positive
thinking
vibes.
I'm thinking I kinda wanna do how to market yourself as a college student because
Yes.
for those who are in tech, everyone you're just so focused on being a technical job. Like you're not
Mhm.
focused on developing your personal brand. So I
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
want to teach them that like you can be in these different industries, but your personal brand, that's one of the most important things you can invest in. So something that or even something completely different, but just something where it's like I know as a STEM graduate who didn't graduate with
Mhm.
a business degree that there are just things that we're not taught in our early career, and we weren't
Yes.
taught about the importance of personal branding when we were in college. We're taught to just
Yes.
get a job, but there's so many things that we need to do that no one talks
Mhm.
about, so these are the spaces
Mhm.
to talk about that. And then as
Okay.
far
Yeah.
as conferences where they can get into free, so for
Mhm.
the National Sales Network Student Sales and Marketing Conference, this one is one where it's all expenses paid. So the student, they provided
Oh.
acceptance into the conference as well as flights, hotels, and meals. And it's really easy application. Like there's like a short essay to respond to, and then there's an interview if you're
Yeah.
selected. But there's 200 students. It's open to undergraduate and graduate students. So 200 are
Okay.
chosen to apply for the conference. And they're currently accepting applications for the conference up until July 31st. And I will be speaking again at that conference in September. So
Yay.
I highly recommend because I had went last year as a speaker and I really liked it. Like I wish, like I'm pretty sure the conference has been around for a few years, but it's like one of those environments where you're really able to network with like-minded individuals, college students
Hmm.
from across the US. They have a
Mhm.
career fair They have on-site interviews. Like, I literally know someone who
Oh,
they got 3 job offers after that conference. So,
what?
like, students are leaving the conference with
Employed.
resources and employed. So, I highly recommend, it's a great space for a lot of students of color, especially Black students, especially HBCU
Yes.
students. Like, a large attendance of the students that were there went to HBCU. So, definitely recommend signing up for that conference.
I'm excited to put that down in the link for our students to apply to. And then the last question, who is your favorite celebrity, Jade? And it cannot be Beyonce. Like,
Mhm.
it has to be somebody else.
I think right now it'll be Leon Thomas, and he has a new
Oh,
album called Mutt that I really love. He's an R&B artist. So he's like my
okay.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. Okay, this is good. I'm excited to check this out. Jade, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the New College Perspective. This to me was like so much fun, just having like a conversational tone. And I just really enjoyed hearing your story, but also like learning practical early career advice. And then I feel like you were just telling our students to just be themselves and to not
Mm.
put so much pressure on themselves. And I think that is needed, especially in this pressure filled space leading up to graduation and trying to get internships. So I want to let everybody know that Jade is available to come and speak to your organization. We're already putting that she's going to be at Afrotech. So that's already happening. That's done, sealed, delivered, speaking there. And she's open also for coaching. So you can check out her website, the9thsemester.com. It has a ton of information available there. Thank you, Jade, so much for coming on. And I cannot wait to see you guys that are listening on our next episode. Bye.
Yes, bye. Thanks for having me.